Hi everyone, so today I'm going to be talking about how I got into Georgia Tech. And I really want to make this video because when I was a senior in high school, I spent hours on YouTube watching videos like these and also on College Confidential and Reddit trying to navigate the application process, and it really helped me. So I just kind of want to pay it forward and share my application process with you all. This video is just going to be an overview of my application to Georgia Tech and college in general, as well as some general advice and tips and why I ultimately think I got in. And before this video, I actually looked through all my essays and applications. So if this video helps you in any way, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more Georgia Tech or college related videos. Now, just some disclaimers before I get started. First, I am not affiliated with Georgia Tech's admissions. Also, I just want to clarify that this is just my story and my application. I'm only one out of the thousands of applicants accepted. So just because you don't follow my story and have my stats or my activities doesn't mean you won't get accepted. And I also don't want my stats or my activities or essays to discourage you from applying. Also, I just want to say that I know college application season is a super stressful time. Believe me, I grew up in Silicon Valley. I started touring colleges in the 8th grade and I was around people who were constantly shooting super high. But it's been 2 years since I applied to college and it's something I rarely ever think about now. So just please take a breath and know that things will work out and it will be okay. So just some background information about me. I am a second-year student at Georgia Tech, so I applied in 2017. And I applied to Georgia Tech Early Action, meaning that I applied in the middle of October and I heard back in early January. And I highly recommend applying Early Action. So I actually was able to get accepted and even commit to college before March, which was the typical season where everyone's stressing out. But also, if you apply Early Action, you kind of get two shots in the sense that you can get deferred from Early Action and get a second shot in regular decision. Luckily, I was accepted Early Action in January and I was able to commit in February, but you still have a second chance if you don't get accepted right away. I also am an out-of-state college student, meaning that I am from California. Georgia Tech's acceptance rate out of state is definitely a lot lower, so it is harder to get in. And I, of course, pay a lot more for tuition, so keep that in mind if you're applying out of state. So in this video, I will be talking about my extracurricular activities, my essays, and my stats, which involve my GPA and my test scores. I will be giving my totally transparent application as well as my general tips on what I think you should think about while you're applying, as well as kind of an analysis of my application as in why I think I got in. First off, I want to say that I really do think Georgia Tech has a pretty holistic review of your application. And what I mean by that is, though it is a STEM school and it does like to see a bit more STEM concentration in your coursework, you really do need to have a good balance of strong essays, good extracurricular activities, and good stats. Especially since now Georgia Tech is getting increasingly competitive, you really need to be well-rounded in all three categories. However, this is not to discourage you if one is lower than the other. I know many people at Georgia Tech who had slightly lower AP scores or slightly lower SAT scores, or maybe they weren't the best writers, but I really do think that Georgia Tech looked at their application as a whole to see that they did have, this well-rounded application, and maybe they had something stronger in something else that made them a good fit for Georgia Tech. So even if you think one of your categories isn't high enough, I still definitely encourage you on applying. But this also goes the other way. Just because one of your categories is super high, for instance, you have a perfect SAT score or a ton of APs, it doesn't guarantee an acceptance. So first, I'm going to talk about my extracurriculars. Looking back, my biggest tips are to actually get involved in things you are passionate about and activities that align with your interests. And I hate to use this word, but don't just get leadership positions at your school for the clout. Also, Georgia Tech's mission statement is creating the next. So they're super huge on innovation and entrepreneurship. So if you're super passionate about a project or a hobby, take your time outside of school and go build that. So I'm briefly just going to talk about my activities that I listed on my Common App. So starting from junior year, I had a part-time job working at the milk tea store as a barista and cashier. Also, in my senior year, I made my own job position working with a local business owner of a pretty big company as a marketing assistant. And then ever since the age of 12, I had run multiple online businesses that ranged from selling stationery to thrifted clothes. And then in high school, I was on the badminton team for 3 years. I was a varsity girls singles player and I was elected onto the cabinet. And then also throughout middle school and high school, I did taekwondo. I got up to 2nd degree and I had qualified for nationals. I served on the principal's advisory board and the school site council of my high school. I was also a member of the California Scholarship Federation and National Honor Society. And I was also on the International Project Committee for Interact Club. I also volunteered at the American Cancer Society Discovery Shop. So that was just the list of things I did throughout high school. As you can see, they kind of had to do with things I was interested in. There was a lot of things to do with like business and leadership. And then another big tip I have is to do summer programs. This is a great way to dip your toes into potential career fields to find out what you like and don't like. So I went to Stanford University's Youth Leadership Conference about public health, and I learned that I didn't like the medical field, but I really liked marketing. I went to the Rotary Enterprise Leadership Conference. That was just a business one. I went to Santa Clara University's engineering seminar, and I really liked mechanical engineering. And then I went to an industrial design camp at University of Cincinnati, and that really sold me on industrial design as a major. So now for essays. I think essays are a super important part of your application because it's really your time to show that you're more than just an applicant on paper, and it's to show your personality. Also, since Georgia Tech is a STEM school, if you have strong writing skills, I think that gives you a huge leverage on standing out as an applicant. So first, the Common App essay is the main essay, and nowadays everyone tries to be super quirky and write about all these abstract things. But since everyone writes the Common App essay, there's bound to be someone that is going to write the same thing about you, even if you think you found this one thing that no one's ever written about. So my main tip is just to write about something that either you're super passionate about or something that you think has made you really who you are. Just show that you're a genuine person and have your personality really shine. So I'm not going to say the specific thing I wrote about, but I basically wrote about a core value that my parents raised me on and how it shaped me into the person I am today and how it shows in a lot of aspects of my life. And then when I was applying, there were 2 Georgia Tech supplemental essays. The first essay for me was why Georgia Tech, and my main advice is to do your research. So look into programs that you are actually interested in, look into events. I applied to Georgia Tech for a very specific major and program, so I did a lot of in-depth research. I actually reached out to specific people already at the campus, and I included that in my essay. So I was really set on going to that school. And then the second Georgia Tech essay was kind of a special topic. I chose the one on if you have experience as an entrepreneur. And I kind of talked about my love for creating, how I in elementary school always made these little handmade inventions, and how it turned into me wanting to launch this business to sell them, and how I kind of made these multiple online businesses throughout middle school and high school. So my main tip for essays is to really just show who you are. Don't try to make your essays super professional to the point where it strips your personality. So just to put it out there, I'm an industrial design major, so I had to get into Georgia Tech and then I had to get into my major. So for the College of Design, there was also an optional essay or an optional portfolio. I chose the optional essay because I didn't have much art experience, so I didn't have a portfolio. But the optional essay was to just basically talk about why you think you wanted to go to Georgia Tech's College of Design and kind of like what experience you had in it. I talked about my experiences at my engineering camps and my art camps. And this is the part, as I said, that I really do think Georgia Tech has a very holistic review on your application because, like I said, I didn't really have art experience. But I had this passion for art, and I also had this passion for STEM. So they really saw that I was a strong applicant in that sense, that I had the drive to want to attend this program. And that's really why I think I got accepted. So now I'm going to talk about stats, which is probably why you clicked on this video. I am going to be transparent with them because I know that's what you came here for, but I really do want to stress that stats are a very small part of your application. High stats don't guarantee admission and low stats don't guarantee rejection, so please keep that in mind when I start to tell you them. So first I want to give some background, and I think people don't really think about this when they're applying for college, but this is so important. When you're applying to college, especially Georgia Tech, they're looking at your stats compared to your classmates at your school as well as the applicants around you. So I attended a public high school in the Bay Area, which is also known as Silicon Valley, which is known as a very competitive area. My high school class was around 500 students, but my school itself did not offer a lot of APs and it did not have a lot of resources for college. Therefore, compared to a lot of students applying to Georgia Tech, the classes I was able to take were not as rigorous. So if you've looked at like the Georgia Tech website, they always say the average student takes 12 AP classes, or 94% of our accepted applicants have taken AP Calc. But my school did not offer that many AP classes. They had these certain rules that you weren't really supposed to double up on AP Sciences, and we didn't really have AP classes until our junior year, where of course in other high schools it's very different. So it's really important to think about your stats in the context of the people around you. So take the most rigorous coursework you can handle as well as the most rigorous coursework that's offered at your school. So first, for my GPA at my school, I had a 3.96 unweighted GPA, meaning that I got 1B, and that was in my freshman year of high school. And we didn't have weighted GPAs, but I calculated on my own and I think I had around a 4.4. So I took 6 AP classes in high school. In my junior year, I took AP US History, AP Calc AB, and AP Chem. And then in my senior year, I took AP Lit, AP Econ, and AP Stats. Another thing is, if you're super set on Georgia Tech, make sure to look at their AP credit evaluations because, for instance, I got a 5 on AP Stats, but they don't take AP Stat credit at all. And then, for instance, I believe for classes like AP Physics and AP Chem, they only take very high scores such as 5s, and in any APs they don't take 3s, which are usually taken at other schools. And then also make sure you're taking AP classes that align with your interest. So I think it's pretty safe to always take an AP Humanity class because you can always use that as kind of like free credit. But for me, like I took AP Chem in my junior year and I really never needed that credit because I'm an industrial design major, which I need physics, but I never need chem in my degree, so it kind of was a waste. So yeah, I took 6 AP classes, and then for testing, I took the ACT. I took it 3 times and I got a 34. And then for my high school, we didn't have any class rankings. Honestly, I never heard of that. I guess it's just not a California high school thing, or at least where I live. But they did give us like percent rankings. So I do know I was in the top 10% of my class, but that was like the smallest percent ranking that it led up to. So yeah, those are my stats, like a 34, 6 AP classes, and a 3.96. Those are pretty average in Georgia Tech standards, but you really have to take in consideration the context. I think that's super important. So for instance, like my school didn't even offer 12 APs, and I know a lot of Georgia high schools have like dual enrollment. You can take classes at Georgia Tech and all those things. So you really have to keep in mind who are the people around you that are applying. This also makes me want to talk about the negative culture of college confidential and like chancing, because since colleges will base your stats on your classmates and your school, just looking at someone's grades or GPA doesn't give you a realistic picture of if they're gonna have a good shot of getting into a college or not. And going down the rabbit hole of college confidential or asking someone to chance you, I think is really unnecessary. And then also the last thing I want to talk about is teacher recommendations. The first teacher recommendation I had was my junior year literature teacher, and that was a class that I was a very strong student in and I actively participated in. And then my second teacher recommendation was from my AP Chem teacher. That was definitely a class I was less strong in, but I actively participated and tried my hardest. I always went to ask her questions and talked with her, And I really think for teacher recommendations, you want to play to your strengths. So I found a humanities teacher that I was really strong in, and I found a STEM class that I obviously wasn't as strong in, but I showed that I tried really hard. So I really picked those strategically, so I had kind of a balance. And then for my guidance counselor recommendation, I actually had my principal write it because I was in his principal's advisory board and my school site council, so I kind of knew him personally and he was able to write it on a more personal level. So definitely, if you have a counselor or an administrator who actually knows you, use that to your advantage, because at least at my school, it was usually a counselor that you had never even interacted writing your recommendation. So if they can really actually talk about you on a personal level, you'll definitely stand out. So I know this was a super long video, but I really just wanted to be as thorough and articulate as possible. I honestly think that Georgia Tech is pretty fair with their admissions process, and just keep making sure that you're doing activities and hobbies that you're passionate about, and make sure to write about those things, and I definitely think that it will shine through to your admission reader. So if this video helped you in any way, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe, because it really helps me get some feedback. And if you have any questions about Georgia Tech or college in general, leave them down below and I'll definitely get back to you. Subscribe if you want to see any more tech related videos or just college in general. I honestly just want to really share my genuine college experience. I can also make an updated video about Georgia Tech and the admissions process with a bunch of my friends, so you can get a variety of perspectives. I know I'm a design student and I'm out of state, so if you want me to get, an in-state student or an engineering student or computer science student, definitely let me know. I can definitely get some of my friends to come and make a video with me. So I know this video is super long, so if you watched to the end, thank you so much. It really means a lot. Good luck on your application process, and I'll see you in the next video.